Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to another live with Hanifa Nayela. I am Hanifa Nayela. Um, I am not even going to delay. I'm going to go ahead and bring the elder to the stage so we can go ahead and have the conversation. Hi,
Okay.
Baba Khalil. It's okay. I'm going to fix it.
Okay. Man,
Can you hear me?
greetings. Hotep peace.
Peace. How are
Well,
you?
I'm at peace. I'm at peace, but I'm doing what I normally tell everybody else to do. Make sure you breathe, because I have a Mac and I didn't have Chrome downloaded, and I said, oh,
Mhm.
okay. Now I got to download Chrome, and I forgot my password. You know, all of the things that would normally happen. Murphy's Law just happened, and I'm saying, oh man, but I'm here.
Okay.
Thank
And
you
I'm
know,
trying
thank,
something new today. I found this setting on StreamYard where you can blur the background. So I'm
uh-huh.
trying something a little new today. I don't know how it looks. It looks okay for me, but yeah. Y'all
It's
let me
good.
know how it look. I'll switch back. Oh, Chef says he love it. Okay,
It's good. It's good. It's
thanks,
good.
Chef.
It's
Okay,
good.
so how are you doing? First of all, let me do this before anything else. If you are joining us and you are new to this space, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can get notified when I go live. Also, if you guys are, oh, sorry, wrong thing. I'm looking for it. There we go. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can see my Instagram below. You can follow me at the real Hanifa Nayela on Instagram. And if you feel generous, you like what you hear, you feel free to give a donation. No pressure. People usually ask, so I make sure that I provide that up front. Um, let's see. And I also want to acknowledge who is in the building with us thus far. Okay, so we have Inya says, Peace Hanifa and Elder Khalil. Looking forward to the conversation. Me too, Inya. Me too. Inya says, Peace to the chat. Chef, peace, love, and light to Hanifa and chat. Chef, I just saw that they say you got 1K subscribers. Congratulations on your milestone in these YouTube street, Chef. Congrats to you. I did not even realize that. So, and I was just by there the other night. But congratulations to you. I am super, super, super proud of you. Um, and then we have Takia says, peace to us, peace to you, sis. That is my sister, my
Mhm.
lovely, lovely sister. Okay. Oh, Harmony says, Harmony Brown says, blessings. Blessings to you too, sis. Blessings to you. Um, oh, Baba Khalil, Chef is saying, please tell him where you can find your hat.
Oh,
And you always have that hat on.
oh yeah. It's one. I'm the one that have them. I'm the one that have them, and I can
Oh,
give you information on them. So brother Shaba designed them. Brother Shaba designed them. Who remember the Black Awakening movement, but I'm the only one that have any left.
oh wow. Okay. 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 So he has what was it, like a limited kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love
We
it
may
too.
decide
I
to
love
produce
it.
some more. We may decide to produce some more, but right now it's probably we do have some more in stock.
Okay, okay. And we have another brother just came in to join us. Herb, let me see. Herb Reed. He says peace. I think it's a he. Um, oh, Chef, thank you. Let me put that in the chat, Chef. Thank you for the Cash App, Chef Shapino. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Um, Okay, let's get into this. All right. So, hi, Baba Khalil. I have not spoken to you in a little while because I have not been on the Thursday night Zooms with
Hmm.
the Black Awakening movement. I
Hmm.
dip in and out sometimes.
It's okay.
But I wanted to have this conversation with an elder. You came to my mind. I reached out. You obliged, and I am happy that you did. So the conversation, I really just want to have a conversation. It's not really an interview. So, like you
Mhm.
said, we could breathe and relax. It's kind of like a conversation that I would have with you if I saw you in person anyway.
Okay.
And so there are some topics that I want to touch on. But first, I need you to tell me, right? What year were you born? If that's okay.
Yeah. You know, when I was younger, I'd always push my age and not tell people and all the
You
things
better
that we
not.
do in our communities, right? But I'm so honored that I made it this far. I'll be 70 July the 15th. You know, born in
You said what?
1952. I'll be
Nine.
70. I was born in 1952,
Okay.
and I'll be 70
Yes,
July the
sir.
15th. Yes.
July the 15th.
Yep.
Is
Yep.
that Leo?
Well, they say it's Cancer, depending on whose chart you're reading. Some charts will have it Leo, some charts will have it Cancer. I'm universal.
Okay. So you're 1952, and you will be turning 70 shortly. Happy
Very
early
cool.
birthday to you, if that's okay to say. Okay. So 1952. I wanted to know the year because of the questions I'm going to be asking, and I know you got some of them already. So, one of the things I wanted to kind of get into, I wanted to speak with an elder about, are just some topics that's kind of been circulating. So, I am feeling, and it could just be in this space or just on social media, not in my real life, because there are elders around that I could speak to.
Mhm.
But I'm feeling like, I don't know if it's my generation or maybe the one after us, that it's almost like the voice of the elder is sort of being pushed aside. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like to see it. I don't even like to think about it because I understand the importance of elders. So I wanted to ask you, do you feel that, first of all, let's start with your role. What do you think the role of elders are, specifically in this time?
Well, first, I want to say to you, I feel honored and I'm very thankful that you recognize that in me. Uh, I, being how old I am, I came up with elders, even though we did not necessarily give them all the consideration that we should have. And the lifestyle that I lived, probably from the age of 16 to like 40, was a drug orientated lifestyle. And I
Mhm,
didn't give my elders as much attention and appreciation as I could have. Uh,
mhm,
Today, wow, man. See, I'm in a different place than a lot of elders. Because I'm honored. I mean, the people that I have around me, I can say that 90% of them honor me as an elder. And I know that a lot of that is because of how I carry myself. But
okay.
when I look at, I have a friend of mine that I talked to today, and he's 2 years older than me. He have no support, nobody,
Mhm,
and I'm saying, wow, man, what can we do? I've talked to a few elders and how we could utilize ourselves and our position in community to be able to provide more support and or be there as elders. Uh,
mhm,
I haven't I haven't got the type of information that I would like to get because although I am an elder, the role and position as elder is new to me in the sense that people come to me with reverence and respect in such a way that I'm honored and it's traditional to have that honor.
mhm,
I'm studying the different African cultures and different African traditions, and I know the position of elder. Elder is the step before ancestor. So my part of what my position is to make sure that I can step into the ancestral role as a remembered elder, as
mhm.
a guarded and honored ancestor, and I live my life like that. You know,
Okay.
today I do. Today I live my
Mhm.
life like that. But I think that we as elders need to organize. That word is always there, so we can position ourselves as elders in the community. I think that yeah, that's a part of what we need to do as elders is to make sure
Mhm.
that we hold our position and value our position in the communities, but yet organize in such a way that we can be there to educate and or provide initiations for people as they're moving towards eldership and other adult roles in our communities.
I like what you said. You said you're kind of like it's sort of a new role for you because I know I have a habit of it. If there's an older lady, I automatically say mama, to the person. And so even if I've met people who don't necessarily want to be considered an elder even though they're older person. No, and it's like they're forced into it either way, because the minute someone sees that you are older person, they consider or they assume, right,
Mhm,
that there is wisdom, because with eldership comes wisdom, right? And the
mhm,
elders represent wise counsel. And so if I see that someone is older, the assumption is they've had some experience and therefore they've acquired some wisdom along the way. So if I'm looking for wisdom, this is who I go to. Now, I think what is happening today is a lot of young people are finding that a lot of our elders are not giving wise counsel. And so there is a backlash there where it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't even want to say it's a backlash. I think there is a, a sense of disappointment,
mhm.
right? That's happening. And so it ends up coming off like disrespect. But I really don't see it as disrespect. I think it can manifest as disrespect, but I think it's actually disappointment, almost like a betrayal, right? Like, how dare
Right.
you not represent what I think you should represent because of your age?
Let me
What do you
let
say
me
to that? Go
let
ahead.
me well with that. Wow. I'm a member of the Black Awakening movement, and I
Yeah.
am an honored elder. Now,
Okay.
there's a story. There's a story. And the people, all the people involved in the story, right? One of the brothers, Brother Hecker, right? And I don't mind
Mhm.
telling this story, right,
Okay.
publicly. Uh, he identified me as an elder. Now I told you I come from the proverbial hood, and I have all of this stuff going on. But
Mhm.
now I know that the Universal Spirits is giving me information. So when he, and it's important to hear this, when he identified me as an elder, I said, "Nah, man, you can call me brother, now." And because I didn't appreciate the reverence at that particular moment,
Mm.
and but I think that he understood what was going on. But what eventually happened is the sister said she ended up calling me. No, he called me Baba, and
Mhm.
then she started calling me Baba, and because she started calling me Baba, I accepted it. Now what all of that means in the greater scheme of things, I'm still looking at. Uh, but when she started calling me Baba, and she said the main reason that I needed to have elders in the Black Awakening movement so we could
Mhm.
have some guidance. And once I understood exactly where he was coming from, because he seen that in me. And
Mhm.
I didn't understand that he seen that in me. And
Mhm.
I didn't want any reverence. I
Mhm.
didn't want any reverence. I was just wanted to be the brother because that's who I always am, the brother. But when I seen that she wanted it, I accepted it. Now,
Mhm.
in the communities and the neighborhoods that I live in, I'm originally out of Baltimore.
Mhm.
90% of anybody that recognizes me because I'm one of them old heads. I come in the 50s and 60s. So everybody that know that I'm one of them old heads, and I am respected.
Mhm.
Uh, Today I am respected and noted as Baba. I think that telling the story that I just told, when I look at a lot of the brothers that are elders, because of how they live, they don't want to accept the reverence of elder and or the responsibility
Mm-hmm.
of elder.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a part of what was going on inside of me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I'm okay. I don't need to have all of this. But
Yeah.
what I've learned, I've often said is, how come the universe, the God system has given me all of this information that I have, and I have information. I'm one of them guys that know a little bit about everything. I'm not a master of all, jack of all trades, but I have mastered a few. But there's not too many things I haven't studied. I initially came through the Nation of Islam, and the Most Honorable
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Muhammad used to tell us, learn everything, and all
Mm-hmm.
information and knowledge belong to you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's under a rock, you pick that rock up and you get that information. So I've studied that, and today, I mean, I'm still growing into the understanding of what an elder is from the African tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an African-centered, African-conscious person and or therapist. I'm a practitioner in mental and healing in the healing profession as an
Mm-hmm.
African-conscious and African-centered practitioner. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing in
Yeah.
that.
So, first of all, let me give a shout because I saw Enya have a question, but I want to make sure I said shout out to OG Patrice. Greetings and salutations. She sends us greetings and salutation. Always a pleasure to have you here, OG Patrice. So Enya has a question. Before I go there, though, I'm glad that you said that because as you were speaking, I'm like, that's no different than someone observing maybe well people use the word gift, so I use the word gift lightly here. Someone
Mhm.
makes noticing or observing a gift that you may have naturally, something that comes naturally to you, right?
Mhm.
But you understand the responsibility that comes with it, and you know that you're still evolving, you're still growing, you still got some work to do, right?
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
in your inner chambers, you know that just within yourself, everybody else may
Mhm.
not know. And so when you're speaking, I'm like, yeah, that's how I interpret it. When someone is like, no, don't call me an elder, don't call me this, don't call me that. It's not necessarily that they're not. It's almost like we're just not ready to receive it at that point completely. That's how I see it. Where you maybe,
Mhm.
like you said, you may have done some things in your life, right? And you're still forgiving yourself for those things, right? And
Mhm.
so
Correct.
the elevated status that you see elders to be at, you feel that you're not worthy to be on that status because of the things that you've done in your lifetime or whatever. I see it no different than people that say, oh, you have a gift of this or you have a gift of that, and we're very eager to reject it because we may not be where we want to be in our life. So I'm glad that you spoke on that. But Inya has a question, and Inya, I'm glad you asked this. And Baba Khalil, I'll let you respond to this, but I'm gonna tell you what I thought about today. She says, I think we may be looking at the wrong generation as elders. Maybe we see 50, 60-year-old as elders, and maybe they're not qualified. Here's what I said to that. Here's the thought process I had today as I was preparing for this. I was like, you know what, Hanifa, you are somebody's elder.
Mhm.
I am 41. I am somebody's elder, right? I am a
Mhm.
child's elder somewhere. So it really made me, and I know I didn't have a lot of time to process it, but it really made me rethink like my definition of what eldership is. Like we think elder is gray hair, you know. Shout out to your gray hair, Baba Khalil. Khalil is no shot, but we think gray hair. We think slower pace. We think, that we have a vision. It evokes a certain vision in our mind, right? And I do
Mhm.
understand that not everything that my mind projects is 100% truth. It is just sometimes it's just programming. And so I
Mhm.
kind of had
Mhm.
to contend with that before while I was getting prepped for the show that, maybe I need to start rethinking my idea of, because honestly, I mean, I have a 3-year-old. I have if I see a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, right? I might
Mhm.
be an elder to him. I don't know. I'm just saying that I had to kind of relinquish the idea of eldership coming only with age. I had to kind of let that go. But go ahead, Khalil. You could speak to what Inya
Well,
said.
see, you
So,
there. I look. There are people around me that other people consider as elders.
okay.
I don't
Are
consider
they younger than you?
much younger. There's
Oh
some of them
wow.
are your
Okay.
age. Some of them are your age.
Oh
But
wow. Okay.
I think that there's a difference, and a lot of times we don't make the distinction. There's a
Okay.
difference between Baba and elder.
That's a
And
good
a
point.
lot of times we don't make that distinction. You know, we call people Baba, and rightfully so, they're parenting children, and that is a position. And within the community, and traditional community, you're Baba, period. But that does not make you an elder. So when you hear me talk about initiation, we know about initiations, or rites of passage is what we would normally call it. We know about that, not from
Mhm.
actual practical experience, but just by education, we know about that. I,
Okay.
I honestly believe, and because I do study, I understand that elder is not necessarily automatic.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just because you reach a particular age, and this is like part of African tradition and African council. If you haven't went through a particular initiation, you don't necessarily have the right to even be a spokesperson within the tribe. So,
I
uh,
got you. Mhm.
and I'm looking at why do I allow myself today? Today, I allow myself to be elder because there are some things that I've experienced, but
Mhm.
not only the things I've experienced. I have a group of mature people that have did different initiations that
Mhm.
see elder in me and acknowledge elder in me. Okay, because they know my path and my study. In addition to
Mhm.
me respecting and giving them their rights, I to answer your question, I if you're not 60, at least 60, I'm not looking at you as an elder. I'm not looking at you as an elder. I mean,
That's fair. That's fair, Baba Khalil. That is so fair. That's fair.
you know,
It's almost like you're saying like you have to have a certain like a length of time
yeah,
of living on the okay, I got you. I
you
got
know.
you. Um,
And then
go
let
ahead.
me also say that does not mean that I don't respect you as wise.
Right, right.
You know,
Yeah, I don't need to be an elder to have wisdom. I understand that very clearly. Very clearly. So I want to get into some of the topics here real quick. I wanted to kind of go over
mhm.
the elder piece first, but I
Okay.
want to get into the first topic, okay? So the
Mhm.
reason why I wanted to discuss this is because this is a thing now that a lot of people, I think the more that people get into spirituality, this is coming up a lot more. Just race as a social construct. So what happens is that when you're having a conversation, someone comes in, and I find it to be very dismissive, oftentimes, or almost like a derailment of the conversation that we're having, maybe about the condition of Black people in this country or the different struggles
Mhm.
under the system of so-called white supremacy, right?
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk about this because I do know that you're a spiritual person as well. And so, can you talk to me about what are your thoughts around race and it being a social construct? Should we really be consumed by our racial identity? Should we be trying to transcend it, evolve from that? Whatever terms you want to use, what do you think of race as a social construct? How do we approach this?
If I had not been born in America, I might would answer this different.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that you can there is no way that you can identify spiritually within yourself without touching race.
Mm.
Personally,
Expound on that. Mm-hmm.
personally, I would love to be able to just look at every human and be able to embrace them from such a place where my heart say, "This is, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I want to be a soldier, but I don't have a country that I feel like I can do a flag for. I want to be able to do that. But I don't think that we as a people, particularly in this country, can advance to the places that we say that we deserve to be and need to be unless we identify who we are first. And that is that constructive race. And we know that race is a construct. There's only the human race, but the educators or the people in charge of the education within this country, they have thrown that concept out and they have made the white race the ones in charge. And if you don't really understand, as Mr. Neely Fuller or Dr. Francis Cresswell Welsh, if you don't understand racism, you really don't know what's going on, because we're dealing with a whole system that's based on just race and domination and oppression. So the human heart says, hey, you love them all. And I still want to love them all, but wisdom tells me I can't do that in this country and be safe. So I have to make sure that I educate. And my heart, hey, I got some white folks that love me. And I know that they love me from the capacity of love that they can push out, and I know that. And I care for them. But they know that I know who they are. And that's the perspective I do life on. Go ahead.
So Baba Khalil, so you said something because, and I stated this before. So when I hear race is a social construct, I'd be like, duh. So are so many different things. So is time as we know it. So I mean, we can go on and on about so many social constructs, right? And this is why I know oftentimes when it comes up in certain conversation, it is meant to derail and dismiss actually the significance of racial identity and standing up for the rights of people that look like you and I. So usually I push back on it because I just think it is so pubescent, for lack of a better word. When people do that in conversations, I get frustrated with it because I think it's a very dangerous narrative to push. I think it's dangerous for me to raise my children, my black boys, by the way, who are going to grow up to be black men.
That's right.
Around race is a social construct, so don't pay it any mind. You know what I'm saying? Where they have to fill out an application that asks them for their racial identity. There are so many things that the driver's license, there's so many things that keeps them sort of in that paradigm, right? Around. And so if you know these labels are going to keep you stuck in that paradigm, then you have to know how to safely navigate that paradigm. And saying race is just a social construct is just not wise. And since we're talking about wisdom and the elders, I don't think that it's wise to push that narrative. So I wanted to kind of see what you felt about that, because I am a spiritual person, and to be honest, and I'm just going to say it like this, there is none of this. This does not exist in the spirit realm. The idea of race and all of that does not exist in the spirit realm. And those of us who know spirit and have a relationship and is tapped in, we understand that, right? But we have to exist between two worlds. And if I am going to exist in the carnal realm, in this natural realm, then I have to know how to safely navigate it, because my people that look like me, people who are in black bodies, are being hunted and oppressed. And for me to just decide that I'm just going to be so heavenly minded, right? I become no earthly good. And so I'm very careful with that. So I'm like, I could be a spiritual person, but I am very aware that of the dance that we do between worlds, between the spirit realm and the natural realm. I'm very aware of that. And I think it's a very dangerous thing to push when people are talking about race liberation, because if there was no oppression, we will not have to have these conversations. Do you get what I'm saying?
Without a doubt.
I know I said a mouthpiece. I know I said a mouthful, but I get so frustrated with this particular topic, Baba. So forgive me. I just wanted to see what you thought about it.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
It's you still have to be aware. You live spiritually, but in this system, you have to acknowledge where you're at. If you don't acknowledge where you're at, you'll get lost in court. I don't teach I have two grandchildren. I got a bunch of grandchildren, but two that just came out of high school.
Okay.
I mean, beautifully. I mean, academically, all of those ideals. And I don't push racial identity in such a way that they have to talk race. I push it in such a way that when they step on the scene, they represent who they are without opening their mouth. You know, I don't push hatred because I never learned hatred, even though I learned to hate. I always teach them love, but make sure that you be aware. You know, and look at everybody. The police, same system, same racist police system. I was arrested one time in my grandson's presence, and the police did not put the handcuffs on me in front of them because I was able to negotiate with them that I didn't want my grandson to come up hating them the way that I did. They were able to hear that. Later on, he found out that I was really getting locked up, and he said, "Papa, what happened that time?" And I said, "Man, look, I just, your father locked up. You hear about all of us getting locked up. If I let you think that, because then I'm not talking about good police and bad police. I'm talking about the idea that you can't live with hate in your heart and grow up healthy." And that's what I wanted to make sure he got. Hey, and he got that. He got that.
Yeah. It's teaching so that they're full aware, right? So that when they're having these first of all, let me make sure I shout out him versus her solutions. He said, "Make America great again." I love
make a Cubalon. Make sure it's make a Cubalon great again. Make a Cubalon.
I think it's important for me to let my sons know so that they could be aware, especially for microaggressions that often happen where when you're not aware, a lot of things can, you can actually be being profiled, racially profiled, or you are being taken advantage of, or being refused certain things because of your race. And if you have no racial identity because you're so consumed in the race as a social construct, you miss this, right? You miss that, and not only that, you find yourself trying to connect with people who are set against people like you. So it's important to be aware, and it's also important to be aware, Baba Khalil, because listen, there's a lot of people that look like us that's not for us. That's not us.
Without a doubt.
That's another part of it. Yeah. And in order to know that, you have to have an awareness, like it has to be there for either side. And so
ask the next question, because I want you to go ahead and ask your next question, because I'm gonna respond to what you just said within your next question.
Okay. So my next question is about religion and spirituality. Don't do that, Baba Khalil.
No, because it's all related. Remember, I'm African centered. There's nothing that's really separate that goes on inside of me. But one of the things that came up as I'm answering this is when we talk about microaggressions, just think if you have someone that's healthy enough in their own that when they hear the microaggressions, they step above the microaggressions and it doesn't bother them. It doesn't bother them because they know who they are. Now, that is the basis of the spirituality. Now, religion, religion, there's no religion that's not man-made. There's no religion that's not.
Wait, Baba, even though it's man-made though, don't you think that all of them have a level of truth?
I think that no disrespect to you. Allow me to finish responding.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
All of them are man-made. I was looking at some video stuff yesterday. Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee, he traditional Wing Chun. Okay. He's traditional. Then he learned from the jiu-jitsu master. Then he learned from the Japanese master. So he learned the tradition, and then he practiced all of the rest of the traditions and made it one.
Okay.
Well, religion. Now, I grew up in a Christian household turned Jehovah Witness household. I identified being, when I became a Muslim, there was only black Muslims in America. There may be some other ones, but there was only black Muslims there. In fact, Muslim was always associated with being black. So
Okay.
I went to that. And I've studied and been ordained and practiced a number of different religions.
Mm-hmm.
What I have learned is it does not make a difference which one it is, as long as you have the faith. You're not being hypocritical, because there's only one, and it's the faith that you have, regardless of what the title is. It's what's going to bear and bring back the results. Whether it's Christian, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Islam, it does not make a difference. The faith that you carry and the belief system that you have is going to bring back the results.
Okay.
It's only one.
So, okay, so you're saying it doesn't matter what you label yourself at, is really, so is it the faith in the teachings of that particular religion? Or because there are some religions where they believe in a God outside of themselves, right? And then there are those who say, no, I'm a part of that spirit is within me. So I don't even want to say it like I believe in myself, but it's more so like I believe in the divine that's within me. It's not some thing outside of me to be pursued or sought after. It's already here. Versus someone that says, that God is outside of them, right? You might hear people that say that they're gods and goddesses, and there are people who cringe at that, particularly people who are part of the Abrahamic religions. That's just cringe-worthy to them to even, in fact, it's blasphemous. They find it to be blasphemous to even say. But then there are those who hear it and they understand exactly what that person is saying. So is it the faith in themselves to walk in whatever the teachings of that religion is, or is it the faith in the religion itself?
Well, it's the person who is identifying what faith is.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the person. It's not the religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's never the religion. It's
Okay.
always the person that's identifying faith.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have two people believing and having the same religion, and one of them appears to have a weak faith, and one of them has the strong faith. We're not talking about the religion. We're talking about the person themselves and the belief system and how they practice that belief system.
Got you.
We're not. It's like I practice Islam at one point strongly. I practice Christianity at one point strongly. I still got the same results when it came out of me. What I can't let it to come out of me is what came back in me, and was based on the faith that I practice, and it wasn't about the religion. As I've learned, it was about the spirit in me that I sent it out, and knowing that when I send that spirit out, it's going to find some like matter and bring it back. And that's generally what happens in every time.
I got you. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So what I want to make sure I'm checking my comments in case anyone has a question. They are loving your hat today. Let me see. He says, great show, an awesome guest. AR says, hello, Inya. Okay, he's just shouting out Inya. Okay, so I want to make sure I don't miss any questions from whoever is viewing. And so I want to move on to the next topic, if you don't mind. Do you have anything else to say on religion and spirituality?
I probably could run out of breath before I run out of words, but I want to keep it simple because it's really not confusing. It's really not confusing. I believe in the energy that comes in and the energy that comes out. Religion is a way of life.
Okay.
Whichever way of life that you have. even when you look at the so-called atheists,
Mm-hmm.
and I define atheist as one that seeks to prove the non-existence of God through science
Mm-hmm.
and mathematics, they still practicing a way of life, which can be called a religion. But
Mm-hmm.
spirituality in and of itself, it doesn't, it no labels. You don't need no labels for spirituality. You got spirituality in crystals, you got spirituality in spoken word, you got spirituality in visualization, you have spirituality in beads, you have spirituality in every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you harness the spirituality within you? Do you use a religion to do it, or do you
Right.
use the universal sphere?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of I'm sort of there where so I used to be a Christian at one time, and then like my whole 20s I spent in the church. Um but before that, living in the islands, I was Rastafari was my thing, and then I it was easy to transition into Christianity because
Mhm.
if you know anything about Rastafari, they still reference the Bible anyway, so it was
Mhm.
an easy transition. And then but with Christianity, when I came out, um, I had already started to rebel within the religion.
Mhm.
Rebel in the sense that I was asking too many questions. Because I was actually reading and then I was actually studying, and I was just like, "Whoa, like what?" And they couldn't deal with that, so I was labeled. I was labeled, and eventually I transitioned out. And in the beginning, I used to try to like feel like I needed to just show Christians why they're off, and then Baba, I eventually grew out of that. I evolved out of that because I understood that I'm just going to be honest, like religion is what's keeping so many people alive, and I'm just going to be honest about that.
Mhm.
So many people are keeping their head above water because of the religion that they are affiliated with. That is the one thing that's keeping them going, right? I also know that I may not need it. I may not need it, right? I may have evolved past that. But there was one time I felt like I did. And
Mhm.
so who am I to say, well, you don't need that? Maybe they do. For wherever they're at in their journey, they might need that, right? And so I had to learn that. I had to grow up a little bit. I had to mature a little bit in that area, because I was so eager to be like, this is why you're wrong and this is why you're wrong. To the point now, like when I see people doing it, I can't really tune in for so long because I'm just like, okay, you kind of have to maybe go a little further, because you're too busy trying to convince people why they should come out. And that's okay because I
Mhm.
came out because of books that I read, that I was studying. So someone helped me to kind of transition out of that. But I had this thing to prove when I first came out, and I'm so past
Mhm.
that now. And I just wanted to share that, because I've been there, and I think knowing that I've been there, like anyone that sees my name knows that I come from a Muslim background, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I have a whole lot of mix up going on there.
Mhm.
But I wanted to transition now into marriage and what did I put? Marriage and the nuclear family. I don't know about this, Baba Khalil. I don't know. I don't know. I hope that this is appropriate to ask. Have you ever been married?
A few times.
What's up? Like three?
Actually, three. I say three and a half. There's well, you got the paper. You got what you have on paper by the legal system. Then you also have what you embrace as marriage yourself. Uh,
Okay.
so
Okay.
uh, now, uh, see, in this system that we're in this
Okay.
system that we're in, and remember that I'm also a healer.
Okay.
So I can't go into a place and say, this is what you need to believe. If you don't
Okay.
believe this, you will not grow.
Mm-hmm.
My position is always, what do you believe? Is that working for you? Now, I teach, in my practice, I teach African consciousness and African spiritual systems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But do I ever go in and say, this is what you better know? Because the moment that you do that, and you already know that, you just talked about that. The
Okay.
moment when you start browbeating about their belief systems is the moment when you lose them.
Right.
I personally in a marriage, there's a level of communication. There's the whole communication that has to take place. You cannot build a partnership with anybody without communication. And communication is, I say something to you,
Okay.
you listen to it, you embrace it, you get a chance to understand it, and then you give honest feedback.
Okay.
That's communication. Most of us don't do that. Most of us, we say something, and before you get a chance to really embrace it or think about it, we're saying something else because what you got to say is not that important. What I have to say is important. So marriage, like any relationship, has to be built on healthy communication. As a person that grew up how I grew up, whose parents were married 62 years before my father passed, I believe that marriage is an institution that can work with honest communication. And you talking about the nuclear family? My mother, first, my father don't know his family. My mother has one brother and one sister, and all of them have different fathers. I have 4 biological daughters and one daughter that's not mine biologically, but I got 4 daughters. So and my nuclear family is my 4 children, my grandchildren, my brother, and my cousins. Those are my nuclear biological bloodline family. And that's my goal, is to make sure that I nurture and educate and teach and do, and all of this elder stuff that we talk about is to make sure that they have that as a nucleus and foundation for them to grow on. They were basically mostly Christian. You know, my grandson, man, he's a spiritual being. He is the one that will come in and lay his hands on somebody else and heal them. He don't know. So I'm educating him. If I tell him, look, and you know that junior Jesus, right? You know, God, junior Jesus. If I tell him, man, that Jesus ain't gonna work for you no more. If I just tell him that like that without educating him, I crush him.
Right.
I crush him. And when I crush him to such a degree, am I gonna be able to put all of that back together, or is it gonna be like me, decades before I get put back together? So I have to make sure that I educate him so he knows Kemetic history, he knows Christianity, and what is his choice? Right now, he know where he get the energy from. He get the energy from what he know is God.
Right.
He get the energy from reading the Bible. He get the energy from seeing the Ankh. So I refuse to say that, historically speaking, I'm gonna make sure you know that I'm not gonna lie to you ever. But where you get your energy from and how you nurture the spirit, that's gonna be your choice.
I like that. I like that because what I wanted to, the reason why I wanted to bring up the marriage piece is because so there's a lot of conversation around like the Black people in this country, and I think what it is that we're really just trying to find solutions. We really are, for the condition of our people in this particular country. And I think that people are just really grasping at whatever, right? And so right now the conversation around marriage is a big conversation, to where a part of the solutions for them is that we have too many single parent households. We need to, push marriage more, or marriage is one of the solutions. It will rectify a lot more, right? I know, Baba. No, go ahead, speak. Go ahead.
My parents were married 62 years. At no point did you hear me say happy, joyous. At no point. It was convenience. It was commitment. It was the practice of integrity, with minimal communication. And then I don't know, because they never talked in front of me and my brother, so we don't know. We just know that they had their way of doing things. Marriage, man, that's one of those words. I had Mama McKay here so she could take that word marriage and do what she do with words, right? But if I'm gonna look at the institution of marriage, I'm throwing out all the rules. And I'm
Mm.
saying you, with whoever you're with, have to communicate with each other and define marriage on your own. If you want to have 17 husbands, then that's the communication that you have to have with those 17 husbands, that y'all have to agree with that, you know, because marriage in this system that we in, if we keep looking at a European definition or somebody else's definition of what we need to do, which is why we in half of the problems that we're in, because what we know are their definitions. We don't have any definitions of our own. We have to eventually step out and make our own definitions and be able to communicate our needs and wants with a level of honesty in order for that to work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we have to teach it to our children and make sure that they understand.
I was cracking up laughing because I'm just mad you went to the number 17. I was like, 17 husbands. All right, Baba. I want to make sure that I shout out Ashan, peace to Ashan, and Sister Ma'at. I saw you come in the building. She says, peace to the elder. Peace, Ma'at. Thank you for always supporting, sis. So as you were speaking, my question was, so are you saying, it sounds like you're saying there is no blueprint for marriage?
No, not in this system that we're in.
Okay.
No, not in this system. Because everything is working for somebody.
For somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything is working. And the only reason it's working is because they have chose to make it work through their level of communication with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I listen to people and I got Brother Naeem Fuller's book, and you know, he talk about relationships, right? And you go in there and he say, what he tell you about relationships, you shouldn't even get in one unless you ask him 100 and 300 questions. Now, ideally, that could work.
Uh-huh.
That can work. Who am I to say it won't work? I know that anybody that I lay down with, whether I'm gonna have a child or not with them, then I want to be able to feel that I can have that child with them. I don't want to lay down with nobody that's not my friend. If you're not my friend and we're not talking about creating, building something together, I don't want your energy like that. I don't want your energy like that. So that level of communication, when we take all of the labels out of it and we start talking about communication, our needs, our wants, what do we want from each other? What do we want individually? What do we want collectively? What do we want? And how are we going to work towards that? Is it going to be your responsibility or is it going to be my responsibility? Well, maybe this week is your responsibility to do that. And next week is my responsibility. But that has to be the level of communication. See, that's what I want in my life. I don't want all of the white folks' rules, black folks' rules, regulations on marriage. It, for the most part, it's not collectively working. Communication works.
So, Baba Khalil, so born 1952, turning 70 soon, just what, in a week or so? July? No, actually, no, in about a month. In almost a month. Yeah. So, when did you get to where you're at right now? Because you've been married 3.5 times, right?
Yeah.
So, when did you get to the point that you're at now around marriage? Like, did it come early
probably
for
about
you?
7 years ago.
About what?
Probably about 7 years ago.
Oh, 7 years ago. Okay. Was that just like an aha moment? It just came to you?
No, well, it was an experience to allow me to look at myself and see the part that I played, and did I want to play it again and go through the same thing again? You know, when you hurt deep enough, you have the choice of practicing healing and forgiveness, which is one of your topics.
Yes.
You have the choice of doing that, or you have the choice of holding on to the pain and taking that to the next place. Okay. I don't want to give somebody else's pain. So what I have to do and what I do is I have to go inside of me and practice healing. Now that means forgiveness. That means forgiveness. Now, forgiveness to me is not okaying what you've done.
Okay.
In fact, forgiveness to me don't have nothing to do with you, except for you are the name that I put into place when I'm looking at practicing forgiveness. But it's not about you. Forgiveness is about not rehearsing the memory of the pain.
Okay.
Make sure that I don't have to rehearse it. It's like if somebody hurt me, I have the choice of remembering every single day what they did and allowing it to become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger inside of me until it blow me up. And that's what happened to me as a teenager with white folks. I began to hate them with a vengeance. And until I realized I needed to practice forgiveness, and the forgiveness is not about them, the forgiveness is to myself, and to make sure that I don't carry the memory of their wretchedness, that I consistently heal me. And that, I guess, probably about 7 to 15 years ago, in that process of time, and I practice forgiveness as a way of life.
Yeah.
Forgiveness has a twin. Forgiveness's twin is called love. They twins. You can't truly love unless you forgive, and you can't truly forgive unless you love. They're twins. One don't exist without the other. So when I'm practicing forgiveness, I'm also practicing self-love.
Okay, so I know we're gonna transition into that part of it, but I have a question for you now. So you just said you can't forgive unless you love, right? You can't really love unless you really forgive. So my question is, because a lot of us exist within this idea around really conditional love, not unconditional, but conditional. How do we begin to love people that have not given a reason to be loved? And if we can't love them, well, if we can't love them, we can't forgive them. But because we are very much caught up in what are you going to do for me? What have you done to deserve my love? Right? What are you going to give in return? Reciprocity. How do we love people who haven't given us a reason to love them? Where does that level of love that you're speaking about come from?
Come from you. You can't you can't transition something that you don't have. If I don't love me, I don't really have the capacity to love you. If I'm hating me, look, I can't go into an empty vessel and pull the fullness out. When I go into an empty vessel, the only thing I can pull out is emptiness. So if I'm talking about loving the next person, that means that I'm loving me. I'm practicing me. Unconditional in this system that we live in, there's no such thing. The closest thing that we get to unconditional is the mother's love for their child.
That's true.
That's the closest thing that we get.
That's
beyond that, there's conditions on, and after a while, then we start acting out the conditions on that. Whether it's the condition is real or not. But after a while, they make you so mad sometimes you want to, So, but you can't transmit something you don't have. It's like, and let me say this about forgiveness, because it's all when you truly, 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 truly forgive. Forgiveness is the only thing in the universe that alters karma. The only thing in the universe. Because once you truly forgive, that's like going to the filling station and hitting that lever and it comes up 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You're no longer the same person that you used to be. So you don't attract the same kind of energy. Forgiveness is self-healing. All forgiveness, all, all forgiveness, and the healing is across the board. We're not talking about in marriage. We're not talking about children. We're talking about the energy. I cannot transmit something that I don't have. If I grew up hating, I grew up hating. I grew up hating because I was taught hate by white folks. I wasn't taught hate in the house, but after decades and decades of realizing what it was doing to me, I had to start practicing self-forgiveness. And that's self-healing. Now, that has nothing to do with another person. That has nothing to do with another person. I ran across this police, right? And I directed the drug program, right? And the police came in, right? A little short guy, like Mickey Rooney. In fact, that was his name. And him and I started talking, right? And we found out that we can communicate on a whole nother level. Now, mind you, I hate police, but we found out we can communicate on a whole nother level. So I've been practicing this self-love and self-forgiveness. So I don't have the same hatred for him. I run across him on the street at the movie one day, and I seen him. I say, "What's up, Rooney?" And he gave it back just like that. And I got on the phone and called my brother, right? I say, "Man, you never guess what happened." He said, "Wow, man, you really changing up." And he wasn't saying that in a negative way. He was identifying that I was getting the task of the prophet as we know it, that I was learning how to truly love. That don't mean I ain't gonna watch him. That don't mean I'm gonna trust him every single moment, but he has no power over my feelings. Where I would have normally seen him and went totally off just because I seen him. He don't have that kind of power over my feelings, and that's love.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that. First, let me shout out. Tiffany says, "Peace, everyone. Peace, Hanifa. Peace to you, Tiffany." And I see a sister in here. She says, "I hate the police too." And she says, "Growth." And you know, let me tell you, I can share something here since we're talking about this, right? So I've been really working on my own self-love, right, over the years. And I started doing some Ubering recently, right? So I'm out in the morning and I'm Ubering. A majority of my passengers are white people. Okay. So I want to put this into perspective. I grew up in the islands where it's majority Black people, right? I also was surrounded by the energy of Pan-Africanism, right? So very early, I kind of embraced that. And I'm still very much so embrace that, okay? Now, I know that my self-love for myself and my people does not necessarily mean hate for other people. I'm very aware of that. But putting it into practice is not always easy because I know that my guard, you know how you have people that are afraid of Black people when they're walking down the street or when they're in contact with them? I'm the opposite. My guard is up with them other people. Okay, like I'm just being honest. My guard is up with them other people. I don't care how sweet they are, how my guard goes up. So recently I'm driving, and like I said, I've been working on a lot of things just spiritually, right? My spiritual development. And a lot of them are my passengers. And I find myself now just being, not being Black, not being guarded, just being in the moment. And it has allowed me to really just hear, because it's a lot of complaining, you know, that so there's a lot of frustration and stuff being shared in my vehicle, right? And I find myself now a little bit more relaxed and just hearing, like someone was rushing to go to the airport. They missed their plane the day before. When I went to get them, Secret Service was surrounded their neighborhood. They had to meet me at the liquor store. So she gets into my car and then we have a conversation around that, you know, learning that she don't have children, learning her perspective on different things. And it's funny because both of us had very similar perspective, but just really allowing myself to just enjoy the conversation. Not that I'm having a conversation with a white woman, right? And I'm a Black Pan-Africanist, very much African-centered individual. all of that I allowed to not even become a part of the experience, just to be there in the moment, in the now. And I'm learning, I'm finding myself practicing that more and more. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean I'm not aware. It doesn't take away from my blackness, none of that. But I also know what hate does, right, to me or to anyone else. And I want to be my best self, and I cannot be the best version of myself if I am consumed by hate. That's
Exactly.
just impossible.
Exactly.
Oh, go ahead, Baba Khalil.
No, I was listening to you. I wasn't necessarily having something to say, but
Okay.
I'm 100% in agreement with that. Years ago, I met Dr. Dick Gregory, right? But this was like in 73, 74, I was up in Chicago. He was with Dr. Alvena Fulton during that time. And him and I talked about that because, I was carrying the heaviness of hate during that period of time. And he said, and I've always respected Dick Gregory. So even at the point of the lifestyle that I was living, and he said to me, he said, man, you can go around hating everybody all you want, but you'll end up killing yourself with the hate. I remember him saying that. I didn't understand what he said at that point. Years later, I talked with him about it, and he didn't necessarily remember the conversation, but when I told him what he said, he remembered the energy that we embodied it. And that's what you cannot, if you're holding all of that hate and energy inside of you, see, resentment is reliving the same stuff over and 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 over. And if you don't reduce the resentment and dissolve the resentment, and the only thing that can dissolve it is love, self-love. It ain't about, it's not about the other person. It's never about the other person. It's always about the self. We as a system, particularly when we look at black-white relationships and all the relationships, we look at how we are so easily able to forgive. And somebody do some damage to us, and then we forgive them. The news media have given a whole lot of stuff up in relationship to that. That's not what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is about me taking care of me on the inside in my heart. It's not about me saying that what they did was okay. Forgiveness is about me making sure that I practice self-love and I don't carry hate, because what I send out is going to come back to me. Remember,
Exactly.
forgiveness is the only thing that alters karma. In every situation, whether it's a friend, because we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about energy.
So when you say forgiveness is the only thing that alters karma, are you speaking of forgiveness of yourself alters your karma, or are you saying forgiveness of, like, if I forgive you, does that alter your karma?
Okay, we know that karma is what goes around comes around.
Yes.
We're still talking energy.
Okay.
What goes around comes around.
Okay.
I got hate inside of me, so I track to myself a whole lot of negative energy that puts me in situations. When I start practicing self-love and I practice forgiveness to the degree, the energy that I sent out is totally different than what I used to send out, because I'm no longer that person, because forgiveness has changed all of that up. I'm not practicing self-hate anymore. I'm practicing self-love. So instead of that energy, that negative energy going out, that's not what goes out. Love goes out. And love does not mean that I allow you to take advantage of me.
Right.
Love means that I take care of me.
Got you. Thank you for clearing that up. I'm just going to go ahead and transition into this part because we're already on the topic. Okay. So the reason why I had this as a topic, self-love in Black men, because I feel like there is this gendering, maybe for lack of a better word, of self-love. Like, it's almost like when you hear self-love, when it's being discussed, it almost takes on a feminine form, right? Like it's a woman thing. And I want you to talk to me about self-love in men, because maybe maybe men practice self-love different than we do. So every time I discuss self-love, it's like, take yourself and lunch dates by yourself. It's all of these like outward things, right, that a lot of women are engaging in right now, and not taking away from that, because I think pampering and being gentle with yourself and maybe getting massages, I don't know. I might be conflating self-care and self-love, but I feel like they're connected. I don't know. You can help me out here. But I wanted to discuss self-love and first of all, what is self-love to you, and what does self-love look like in Black men in this country?
And in this country, self-love looks like me getting what I think I need to make me happy. Mm-hmm. And generally, that's me having what I would consider the appropriate mate in my life with family. Mm-hmm. I don't look at self-love in that particular way, and I guess one of the things is challenging for me to answer that, because I look at the perspective that we practice what white folks gave us to practice on how to love. We came in this country with amnesia. We don't know what love is. We only know what the ideal of slavery is and oppression that we have learned and been transferring down to generation to generation to generation to generation. Fences. Walter Mosley play, but Fences. The idea to play Fences, how Denzel related to his child, to his man child from a man, that is the generation that I grew up in, and that was an ideal of my father, which is still handed down to generation to generation to generation to generation. So understanding what self-love, I didn't, until I started practicing, studying metaphysics and different things, I did not understand that there was a love. I mean, I defined love was what you can do for me. If you can't do nothing for me, you don't love me. So if I'm not able to do nothing for you, then I'm not demonstrating love either. And for the most part, men in this country that's been groomed in the capitalistic American society, when we look at love, that's there. That's there. When I'm looking at love today, I'm talking about spirituality. That's my practice of love, is spirituality, and how I treat and how I practice love to me, which I've already said that. When we don't get that. We get things handed down, and then also Hollywood has also defined what love is to us. It's a brand new car. It's my favorite sport teams winning. It's me, the initiation of having as many women as I want. We don't have a clear definition of what love is. We can tell you more about hate than we can about love.
I agree.
So when you look at and we don't even the definition of manhood. What we go about? We're going by white folks' definition of manhood. We don't understand our culture. We don't understand the rituals. We don't understand the ceremonies. We don't even understand that there's only one God. We're fighting over God. And all of that's related. All of that's related to self-love. Self-love is me not holding on to memories and energy that's going to interfere with my spiritual and personal growth. And most men in this country, in this system, particularly Black men, can't identify with that. We identify with things more than we identify with energy. I answered your question. No.
I see someone here. Someone has actually the chat have a question for you. My ad says, and how much more do we adopt the idea of forgiveness and love from them? Forgive and love despite the transgressions. Why would they need us to believe in that idea of love? Rhetorical. That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, okay, because that is rhetorical, because the type of love that I talk about have nothing to do with them. Has nothing to do with them. I'm talking about the energy, that Mayat. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about Mayat. We're talking about how I treat myself, preparing myself to go to the next transition, to go to the ancestor realm. That's when I talk about love. That's what I'm talking about. Is how do I treat myself? What am I practicing? Man, we forgive. We forgive, or the ideal, the definition or the ideal of forgiveness is not realistic. It's not how I'm going to love somebody that keep their foot on my neck all the time. I mean, that's crap. That's crap. I can't love nobody that's always abusing me. I can become weak and cowardice and not get back at them and call it love. But unless I'm taking care of me, self-care, self-healing, knowing how to breathe, that's not forgiveness. That's not forgiveness. Knowing how to breathe is forgiveness. See, we go into their dictionary and we use their words to define ourselves, which are already tainted with a whole lot of evil spirits, so to speak, for lack of a better term at this moment. And we use those words to define ourselves, but they have nothing to do with who we are on the inside, the DNA, the core of our African-centered consciousness. It has nothing to do with us. And when we want to practice self-love, really self-love, then we have to go back to that, because then we'll realize that it has to be the energy that I send out that I want to come back. And that's Mayat. Practicing Mayat as a way of life is self-love and self-forgiveness. And that's what I'm talking about. For the lack of a better language, that's it.
So okay. Because at first, so you are pretty much saying it's not about anyone else. It's truly about you. It begins with you, right?
And ends with you.
And it begins and begins and ends with you. At least that's what I'm hearing. Am I clear on that?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Can't transmit something you don't have. If you ain't got it, you can't give it.
So I have a question, Baba. Okay, so there's a lot of conversations around, and we're gonna get into it. You know what? I might as well go ahead and transition, because I'm gonna come back to self-love as well. But I'm gonna transition to this next one, because this is, where is it? This one, so-called gender war. Okay, so I have so many questions for you. All right, you being that you are about to be 70, I am so eager to hear your response to these questions. So there's a lot of conversations, right, that's happening, particularly a lot of Black men in this space on social media. I feel like it's spreading as well, where there is this I don't know if I want to call it energy, but it's almost like a lot of our men, young men, are in the space right now where they feel like it's time for them to no longer pursue us, Black women. They feel that we have abused them for the last 50 years. Okay. They use examples like Oprah Winfrey, movies like The Color Purple, just a whole bunch of different examples that they'll use to say Black women have never really had Black men back. And so there's like a widening in the gap. Like that's why I said the so-called gender war. It's like our women are now considering divesting to other races, and our men are like, deuces, we don't care about y'all because y'all don't care about us. So my first question around this topic is, when you were growing up in the 50s, the 60s, did you ever feel like Black women were your enemy? Like, did you have issues with us?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And I grew up in the hood. Yeah, I grew up in the hood, and I'm saying it like that because it was like I've got a lot of my information from the hustlers on the corner.
Okay.
Okay, and they would teach rites of passage stuff, like, you know, woman has one purpose, you know, and it was all negative stuff. But she also had a mother that I learned a whole lot of other stuff from too. I don't think I ever believed no. I lived a lifestyle in the street where the rules were clear. And if I was going to live the lifestyle in the street, I followed the rules. So I treated women the way that I was taught to treat women. Okay. But I never believed that women were less than. I never believed that. I don't believe this gender war, man. This is a bunch of crap. This is still from the same educational or miseducational system that when you start giving examples, you start giving part of the examples of what they put out there to make sure that we believe so we can practice that.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
The books, the music, all of the media contradictions that we have, man. And we believe that. We believe in, we have been taught that we have been taught that black women were our enemies by the media. All you gotta do is listen to it. Every now and then, you'll hear something in the media that changes the narrative. But when you even listen to the music of the 60s, it was always about heartbreak, Smokey Robinson love song. You know, it was never identifying what real love is. It's always going to come back to, no matter what the social construct is, no matter what the topic is, it's always going to come back to self-love. We were never taught how to love ourselves. In fact, we were taught how to hate ourselves more than love ourselves. And then we get those Hollywood depictions of what love is and what history is and what right is and what wrong is, and then we buy into that as though that is the way. That's not it. And it's still going on. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. And now we have the youth loving their gender. They don't even want to, they don't want to switch genders. They want to get into their gender. Where's that come from? We know it come from the Greeks when you do history. See, the other piece to it is they denied us our history. If we really study our history, we find out where all of this crap comes from. It comes from their educational system, and they're making sure that we identify with it because we want to be them, because they are the man. And if they are the man, in order for me to be the man, I have to be like them. We don't get that in the educational models. From childhood up to the biggest academia. I got 2 doctorates. And I don't even talk to people about that because they're worthless to me if my people don't love me. It's worthless to me if I have to come in and you come into my office and you need some help and I have to give you their ideologies that don't work for you. And I don't want to see nobody more than 6 months. But if they see me more than 6 months and they still got to see me, I ain't did my job. I have been taught that the ancients, they did not get paid if you were still sick. They only got paid when you're well. How does that all relate? The so-called gender war, it still deal with a lack of self-love. We don't know how to love ourselves. We've never been taught that. I don't know how else to answer those type of questions.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, this is why I brought it up, because again, this is about a elder's perspective, because there's a lot of conversations happening. I agree with you. The so-called gender war is trash. I feel like we are victims, and I know that's a word. I use that word lightly here. Of the same circumstances. How do we then become enemies of each other because of the same circumstances? It's almost like we want to have a conversation, but no one wants to address the elephant in the room. So it's like a it's like a couple arguing about the stench in the room, but no one is discussing where the stench is coming from. Right. And what do we do to remove the stench? No, we at each other's neck. You know what I'm saying? Well, there's a stench in the room. It might come from you. No, I think it comes from you. But the both of us see the elephant in the corner, right? But I keep saying that we are so disempowered as a people because of the lack of self-knowledge and self-love that we can't find I don't even know if you want to say courage here, but I'm going to go ahead and say courage to confront what the real issue and the real enemy is. And so instead of doing that, we take it out on each other because it's just easier. It's just easier to do, you know?
Courage is the best word, see, because we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about how afraid we really are.
Thank you.
The things that I'm revealing about me, there are times I would never have said any of that because of my pride and I was afraid of what you might think. And I ain't one of them people that tell you that I don't care what nobody. That's crap. Yeah. I truly care what people think, but I won't lose no sleep over what you think. You know? So, and what I have to do is to make sure that I carry myself in a way that I practice, that I am about what I say I'm about. And if I said something to you, then you can see that in my actions. And I've always been like that. Even when I was living on the other side of the street doing some crazy stuff, I was still living like that. So this level of character that I think that's been built in me, by the way, my matrilineal lineages is from Sierra Leone, the Mende tribe. Okay. My patrilineal lineages is from the Bisa tribe, Burkina Faso. So I got all of that in me.
Burkina Faso, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I got all of that in me.
Yeah.
And I've always known that there was something what I call special about my bloodline. I've always known that. My great grandmother was the root lady. Nobody messed with her. She could pull the heat out of your face with her hand. So I guess that's I got my Reiki from, you know. So, but you know, again, I'm also acknowledging and being very, very honored by this conversation. You know?
Okay. You say what?
Because I needed to do. I really needed this, and I appreciate you for allowing me to do it because I respect. Well, I respect you, and I respect my position as elder. I talk about that a lot because I am. This is an honor. We was on the call the other night, and people they were saying yes, and they were saying yes to what I was saying, but they were saying it in a place of reverence, and I'm saying, who am I to deserve this? You know, the only thing I've done is lived. But I live my life today in such a way that it can be an honor to the next. You can't say nothing bad about me in front of my grandchildren. You better not say nothing bad about me in front of my daughters. They ain't gonna have it. You know? And that's because that I practice what I say as a way of life. Money is not my issue. I care nothing about it. I ain't gonna take none of it with me. You talk about the nuclear family. That's my prosperity, my family. Watching my grandchildren represent what they say they believe. And if they say they believe it and they represented it from their heart, I'm still honored by it.
You know, recently that happened to me on YouTube. I had a conversation the other day with my ex-husband's new wife
Mhm.
and a cousin of mine. So it was about like blended families and co-parenting. And so I brought her on to so that we could have a conversation about our dynamic.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's only in that moment that I realized, because she also said to me, it's also about support, supporting you. And it really hit me in that moment where, because people would say to me in the chat, like, I think it's so dope that your family supports you and so forth. But being able to even get my ex-husband's new wife to come here on this platform and have this conversation, I really, really like sat with that for a minute and said, it really says a lot about you, Hanifa. And I know we don't like to give ourselves our own
Mhm.
flowers, right? And it's when it really hit me and said, it says a lot about you and how
Mhm.
you represent yourself with others and how you, interact with others, and so forth. And so, I've been to her baby shower, their baby shower. This is his new wife. This is his
Mhm.
new, his child, that, his new child and all of that. And for me, I operated in that energy, in that spirit of love every chance I get. It's first reflected in your family, how your family sees you. That is the first thing and the most important relationships to me. And then it trickles outside of that, and how I
Mhm.
interact with the people who are closest to me, because this sister is close enough to me. We are raising the same child. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah,
I
she's
do.
helping me raise my son, right? And so, I have to operate from a certain level of love, to be able to make this work, because at the end of the day, she loves him, he loves her. Who am I to not love her? What
Mhm.
has she done
That's
to
right.
me, right? And so
That's right.
I just wanted to add that, because when you mentioned family, I'm like, it's only that day that I sat with that and said, it says a lot about you, and that's okay. You can receive that, you know what I mean?
Let
um
me let me
Go ahead.
almost the same thing. My children's, I have two daughters in St. Louis. One of them is teaching right at Rice University, but I have two daughters in Baltimore. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Me and their mother separated. The daughters are your age. Uh, Me and a mother separated 20 some years ago. She got
Mm-hmm.
into a relationship with somebody else. One of the first things I did. And I don't know where it came from, by the way. It had to be the other ancestors. I talked with the guy. I talked with him and I said, man, you know that we have a responsibility. Those are my children there, but they're not just my children. They're your
Mm-hmm.
children. And I can tell you one of the best ways for us to be able to raise them is you keep me in the loop. When you ask them to do something that they resist, you need to call me and we
Mm-hmm.
communicate and we get on it. Now, by the way, I already had this conversation with her. I already had this conversation, and we raised them like that.
Uh-huh.
When there was something that they told them they couldn't say, well, you ain't my father, because he done already called me and told me what's going on. And but when I look at that, I say that the universe, the ancestral realm, have put something inside of me for me to be able to understand that. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody ain't gonna do that. Everybody can't get that.
No, no. I understand that now. I understand that. My ex and I, we learned maybe a couple of years ago that we're really the minority. Because a lot of people see our dynamic and they're like, they ask him, and I laugh at this. They ask him, how did he get us to work with each other? I said, typical Western society, the man gets all
Mhm.
the credit. All right, shout out to the brothers. So I know you talked about forgiveness a lot. And I know we're about to be closing up soon, but I wanted us to talk about some tools of healing for our people, because I know this is a big important topic for you as a healer yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so what are you, from your experience and from your time here on this earth, are now transitioning into eldership, um what would you say we really, one of the main, I mean, outside of the self-hate, because I'm assuming there's some healing that has to happen with the self-hate. What is one of the most important things that you've observed that we really need to work on healing?
Okay. First, let me say that there is no separation. When we look at the way that we learn in the European ideology, we start looking at quantifying and quantifying and counting. To move that out the way and to realize one of the first things that we really need to learn how to do is breathe. Because most of us don't breathe, we pant. And if you learn how to truly breathe, the closest place you ever gonna find the most dynamic spirit is in your heart. So you breathe and you concentrate that energy. You learn how to listen to your own heartbeat. Decolonize the mind, decolonize the thinking, which what that means is understand what's going on in your own mind. Pay attention to your own thoughts. And if they are not nurturing to you, change them. You have the ability to change your thinking because everything starts with the power of thought. The spoken word is the thought energized. What you think about all day is what you become. If you don't put it in you, it can't come out. And it certainly can't get in you if you don't let it. And if it gets in you, it still has to come out. So, and doing that, so you got visualization, you got affirmation, you have family dynamics, which is also going to be masterminding. I'm talking with a family now, and I have the mother who initially came in. She's using the principles of affirmation, visualizing, and masterminding, which is masterminding. And masterminding is affirming and visualizing in groups to be able to have a family meetings and a family sessions around. So they're doing goal setting. Most of the time, we pay no attention to our thinking. We don't even realize what we're thinking. And we don't breathe. Half the time, we pant. I guarantee you that 90% all of us, as when we're breathing, we're holding our breath. And usually in the process of holding our breath, there's some stress and some anxiety going on. So we have to learn how to breathe. We have to learn how to communicate with ourselves. Now, these are things that anybody and everybody can do at any given time. Go online, look up breathing. Go online, look up Reiki. Go self-care. There are things that you can do to take care of yourself. Pay attention to your thinking. The only one person really thinking your mind, unless you allow somebody else to come in there. Other than that, then you are the one that's programmed yourself for self-defeat. I've learned to reprogram my own mind. That colonization that I've gotten, I've used filters. I've got African-centered filters that I've been using for the past pretty close to 50 years, that every single thought that comes through is sifted through there, from Kwanzaa, Kuchicagalia, to Nation of Islam, to Dr. Erwin Nichols, to all of these different things. So education, decolonization, reprogramming, health, and breathing.
Okay, I didn't catch the education
in any particular order.
Yeah. So you said something about the mind, and I recently had a conversation with a friend, and walk with me through this, Baba, because I could be completely off here. Okay, so I've been really thinking about the brain, or the mind of these of late, and just saying, we're not our minds. Like, so if the mind is this technology, right, that it processes thoughts and it projects out images based on whatever is already programmed into that mind. Okay. So for example, my toddler, if there is an insect he's never seen, when he sees it, he asks, what is that? Why? Because that has not been downloaded into his consciousness again. It could be a ladybug, and he just have never seen one. He's not aware of what he just does not know. There's nothing there to reference, right, in his mind. So he can't project out that that's a ladybug. So he has to ask, what is that? Right? So I've been really paying attention to that and saying, so I'm not my mind. And if I'm not my mind, then how do I tell my mind what to think? Because if my mind then processes information and sends information out to different parts of my body, or my mind affects my behavior, my thoughts, my thinking affects my behavior, then how do I affect or change or have some sort of influence on my thought process? And that's me. I'm not removing myself from my mind per se, but I'm also not I no longer I'm embracing this idea of I'm just this matter, this this lump of whatever this is, my brain, my thoughts, or I'm not just that. And if I am, and there's a way for me to control that, then I am not just that. I am something else outside of my mind, right? And so I therefore can influence my mind, my thoughts, which then influence my behavior. Am I completely off here, Baba? I mean, I'm trying to be clear as
See,
possible.
this is the sad thing, and or the good thing, whichever one, however you look at it, is I actually understand what you're saying. I don't. I was saying in a different way.
Okay.
I understand that instead of us being like Junior, you know, or understanding the ideology that God took a rib and made somebody, we are descendants of the universal being, of the universal thought. So every single thing that ever existed is already in us. Even that ladybug that it on the level of consciousness that you're looking at, he cannot identify the name of that ladybug, but yet within him, he already knows because he is connected to the first being through you, the mitochondrial. He is connected to that first being through you and have all of that information. It's your responsibility is to nurture it and guide him in such a way that he realizes that through ceremony, through rituals, through education. And see, because all of that, it's like my daughter, right? My 40-year-old, her mother died in December. She was going through. I mean, if you heard me during that period of time, I was talking about that. But also when she was a child, her and I talked, and she remembered or she knew. You've been here before. She knew she'd been here before, but she forgot that. See, after she had grown older, we didn't nurture that. She forgot that. So what I had to do is remind her of that. When I reminded her of that and it clicked with her, she knew that she would never lose her mother. She might lose her physically, but she would never lose her mother. And once we got there, because it was already inside of her, already inside of her. All of those things that we need to know are already inside of us. And when we really start studying and start looking, we'll find that everything we need to know is already in us. We just have to be nurtured in such a way that we realize it.
Okay, so that might be where that sense of knowing, because sometimes you just, I mean, they say like woman's intuition, they have different labels for it, but it's like this sense of knowing. It's not I believe, it's not I think, it's a sense of knowing. And then what happens is that we doubt it, right? And then the thing happens, and then what do we say? I knew it, right? Because there's a knowing there.
Consciousness. There are different levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
You have your present, your consciousness, then you have a subconsciousness, then you got an unconsciousness, then you got a multiverse consciousness, but there are different vibrations and different forms of energy as you go out and you go out, but we all connected. And the more sensitive that you are to those, is you begin to realize that there's much more. We talk about melanin. We talk about exactly, and you know, it gets to be real deep. And we are that. We are that. We're not separated from any of that. There's only one in every single thing, and every single thing on this universe is connected. We all have the same carbon. We have all the same energy. We just have been taught that we don't belong to none of that. And we have begun to believe that.
So are you saying there's one consciousness and we're all connected to that one consciousness?
I'm saying that there is different levels of consciousness.
Different levels. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So before we close out, I'm just going to see if anyone have any comments. I usually allow people to, if they want to ask you a question, I will allow them to come up. I'll post the link in the chat. So anyone that wants to come up and speak to Baba Khalil, feel free. We don't have a lot of time left. And I apologize for that. What I do want to end with, Baba Khalil, is, and I know you touched on it somewhat already, but I do want to end with forgiveness, because a lot of times when we talk about forgiveness, we talk about forgiving others. But I actually feel that a lot of us, a lot of our people, are carrying around a lot of guilt and a stain of shame, right? And there's a lot of unforgiveness of self involved, right? Because I've been there, where shame can attach to you as you try to move forward, as you try to progress, as you try to grow. Shame or you have the voice of accusation constantly there. Am I actually a better person? And it depends on what it is that you have probably experienced in your life. So I want to delve in a little bit. We could close out with the topic of forgiveness. And is there a level of is there a level of divinity to forgiveness? Can anyone just forgive? And I know this is a three-part question. And Baba Khalil, because I've recently accepted this. I don't think that, coming from the church, I used to think forgiveness is this one-time thing. Now I see it as a process. I see it as, yeah, I see forgiveness as a process. I think it depends on the depth of the injury that has been caused. I don't expect someone kills your mom. I don't expect you to forgive them in that moment. You know what I'm saying? But coming out of Christianity, that is the thought process, because you have this fear of dying and going to hell because of unforgiveness. So it's like this emergent thing that needs to happen right now in the moment, right? Which I think also creates other stuff. But anyway, so the topic of forgiveness, does it require a level of tapping into the divine to genuinely forgive?
First of all, if you tap into yourself, you will find the divine. Okay. Now, let's look at it. Let's look at it. When I am angry, or better yet, when you are angry, do you feel heavy or do you feel light?
Heavy.
Right. That's energy. That's energy. That's actually atomic weight. That's actual energy. When you're feeling giddy and gay, are you heavy or are you light?
Light.
Right. So you got two different energies there. Anger, resentment, fear is heavy. Love, forgiveness is light. In the divinity inside of you, you have the ability to not so much control, but to utilize the energy in such a way that you control whether you're heavy or light. Forgiveness is about being light. It's about allowing that divinity in you to take more control than the opposite. Forgiveness is and I have to go back to something I said previously.
Okay.
Forgiveness is never about the other person. It's always about the self. It's where you say the word process, I say the word practice.
Okay.
I practice forgiveness / twin love. I practice forgiveness, love as a way of life.
Okay.
My hatred towards police. If I forget that I hate, then I'll start hating again. So I practice forgiveness in such a way that I'm loving me and I don't want that energy inside of me to take over me anymore.
Okay. Okay.
Forgiveness, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. All forgiveness is self-forgiveness. And I'm going to say this again because a lot of times when I say it, you have to hear it 1,000 times before it reaches you. Forgiveness is the only thing in the universe that alters karma. Because once you truly, truly forgive, and the only way you can truly forgive is to practice forgiveness and self-care. But once you truly forgive, you're no longer the same person. You're no longer carrying that energy. If that energy of anger, hatred, resentment, and fear was in you, and you practice forgiveness, that energy begins to dissolve. And it becomes non-existent. And it becomes light, and you become light. The moment that you forget that you need to practice that, something happens and triggers that. It's just like if I said right now, Humpty Dumpty sat, finish it.
On a wall.
Right, okay. Now, the same way that you were able to say that, and you do have young children, so you may have heard that recently, right? But most of us who haven't heard that recently would know how to finish it because I triggered an emotion inside of you that connected with something and brought back the energy of that. That's what forgiveness is about. It's making sure that you don't have to carry that negative energy, that you can practice a way of life that's self-care, self-love, self-healing. Practice makes improvement. Practice makes improvement. You could always better your best.
Yeah. I like that you said instead of process, practice, because I when you said that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, something, we can be so injured by something. I mean, a lot of our people have trauma that they're carrying, and it's so deep. It's so deep, and some of it is really dark. And so, that person, it's like a daily practice that you have to get up and do every single day, and not just daily. It's almost like moment by moment, because you can be out and about, and just like you were talking about, you saying Humpty Dumpty, it triggers an emotion. I could be out and about, and I could see something that triggers an emotion, right?
Smell something.
I'll smell something. Exactly. And so now I'm back in that space of, this person hurt me. I can't believe that. So now I have to choose all over again. And it's only 8 a.m. And I first had to choose at 7:30 a.m. Now it's 8 a.m. and I got to choose again. So it's like a moment by moment practice as well.
So
go ahead.
one of the practices is generally, in the name of God, I love and forgive myself. In the name of God, I love and forgive myself. See, if everything starts with the power of thought and the spoken words of thought energized, that means at one point I have to start that, and that's the work. I do the work. Because I consistently do the work, it becomes a practice. Once it gets to the point where you're practicing it as a way of life, it becomes a way of life.
Yeah.
So I'm always, when you hear me talking, and a lot of times I have beads or I have something that I'm doing, I'm practicing remembering to practice self-care and self-healing and self-love, because I got a lot of hate inside of me. Negative energy, and we just talked about negative energy weighs much more than positive energy, so it will weigh you down. You'll feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Forgiveness dissolves all of that energy. It ain't got nothing to do with the next person. The next person is only a placeholder, like a zero, that you use it for a placeholder, because it's about you.
Baba Khalil, do you think that it ever you said I still have a lot of hate in me, like those things that we're talking about, that where you can smell something and it triggers that. Do you think that it ever goes away, or is it something that's always there?
Well, I believe that if you live long enough, okay, Scientifically, it takes 10 positive strokes to balance one negative. Scientifically, it takes 10 positive to balance one negative. So that means 11 for you to get on the other side. Okay. Now, I shot dope for 25 years. Okay. I practiced the way of life of an addict for 25 years. If I say 10 times 25, that's 250. I'm not going to live in this physical body. I don't think this physical body going to last on 250. I think I got another 50 in me. I think that. I don't think another 250 because the skin is, weak and all that kind of stuff. So therefore, in understanding that, then I have to make sure that I'm practicing things that's going to be give me some longevity.
Oh, I feel like, okay, so I know our time is up, but Baba Khalil, I'm going to bring you back because I feel like I just want to have a whole conversation because I was just getting real comfortable. I want to have a whole conversation around healing with you, if you don't mind. I am definitely going to have to arrange that and definitely bring you back because I think that that's a conversation that we really just scratched the surface just now. I think that it can go so much deeper, and I'm here for it.
And I'm my best example. I'm my best example.
Yeah. And you're pretty transparent too with your own story. Like one time you said on one of the Zooms that I was on with you guys, one time you said, you still deal with the white man in your head speaking to you, and your elder saying that. And I was like, oh, that is so refreshing to hear because I just think that there are things about us that, it depends on the spaces that we're in. There's a pressure to pretend that we've surpassed them until something happens, and then we boil over, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? It's always been there, but we do a lot of suppressing versus actually facing the things. So when I heard you say that, I was like, oh, that's such a breath of fresh air because we're all dealing with it. None of us are exempt from that. So it was, I appreciate that about you.
But that, you can't, if you can't acknowledge that you need some help and that you have a challenge, you'll get no help. The first step is always the first step. I have to acknowledge that there's something going on. My mother told me that years ago. She said, boy, you're crazy. And I'm looking at her. What you mean, Mama? She said, you black man in America. You a Negro. I was a Negro then. You was a Negro in America. A Negro that don't know he's sick need to have his head examined. Didn't understand that, man, for a long time. But today, I'm real clear about it. The only way that I can acknowledge and receive help is first I got to accept that I need it.
All right. So thank you for being here. I am bringing you back under a different heading because we got to get into some of that healing conversation because I feel like you have so much to offer there, and I know that's your speed, that's your space, and I appreciate your insight and your wisdom around that. And so if you don't mind, I will be bringing you back. I will reach out to you and let you know and see how we can work that out. But I appreciate you sharing your energy and your presence with me today. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here, and I am honored that you graced my platform. I'm very honored by that. I know
we're both honored, but I'm just as honored. And again, words won't give me what I feel to be able to say Asante Sana for the abilities for me to be able to talk about what's on my heart. And the role in the community of an elder is one of my most treasured possessions. For those people that want to contact me,
thank you.
I'm on the Black Awakening movement under the name Khalil Bey.
Is this on Facebook or?
Yeah, Facebook.
I have it here. I thought I'd send it out. Here we go.
Okay.
Black Awakening Movement on Facebook, and you're under Khalil, right?
Yeah, Khalil Bey. Yeah. You can give them the email address also, and that's for anybody who's looking for the hats or any of that. Feel free to ask me any questions about any of the subject matter that we have talked about. And I'm also white folks licensed.
All
And
right.
also,
So I'm gonna make sure once it ends, I'll put your email and so forth in the description. So anyone that wants to reach out to Baba Khalil, he is definitely a vault of wisdom. So tap into that, please. Baba Khalil, once again, thank you for being here. And to all you guys who was with us, who stuck it out with us, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. And until next time, I am going to say peace.
Sante Sana Hotel.
Sante sana.